Today we're going to take to the streets and the back roads of Louisville, Kentucky in this 42-seater and let you know how you could be enjoying this very car. And we're getting started right now. Welcome to the premiere episode of GearHeadTour. I'm Amanda Mertz.
And I'm Paul Rainey. And our co-host Clutch should be around here somewhere.
Where is he?
Where is he?
If you love all kinds of cars and trucks like we do yourself a favor and hit the subscribe button. Be sure to click the bell so you get notified when we post new content.
The Alfa Romeo 4C is a two-seat sports car of Italian descent. This version is the coupe, which is no longer available to purchase new. Now these Alfas are mid-engine, rear-wheel drive sports cars, and they're built in Maserati's plant in Modena, Italy. Now we're glad this car made the trip from Europe to the States, because now we have a chance to take this baby supercar for a drive.
Like Paul mentioned, the coupe version of this car is no longer available. A brand new Spider version can be had at the MSRP starting price of just over $67,000. That price climbs as you add on the options, like non-standard paint colors, carbon fiber exterior mirrors, Bison-on headlights, the front fascia with carbon fiber vent, upgraded wheels, painted brake calipers, performance tires, race-tuned suspension, the Acropovic dual mode center exhaust, the carbon fiber halo top, microfiber covered seats, an Alpine stereo, a microfiber steering wheel, carbon fiber trim, optional wheel locks, and shiny valve stems, and you can be looking at $88,000. And don't forget, you can go ahead and pick up protective paint film, an Alfa Romeo car cover, and an official Alfa Romeo battery charger, and the total ticks up to just a bit over $90,000.
This little pocket rocket is powered by a 1.75-liter turbo four-cylinder, churning out 240 horsepower. Now, 240 isn't a particularly impressive number when it comes to horsepower. However, when the car weighs just over 2,000 pounds, it's enough to propel the 4C 0 to 60 in 4.2 seconds with a top speed of around 160 miles an hour.
And you can still get 34 miles per gallon on the highway. That's comparable to the Porsche Cayman, which is probably this car's most direct competitor. Now, where the two diverge is the exterior styling and the interior options. The exterior styling of the Cayman is undeniably more conservative than the 4C. Especially this 4C that came in black paint, but it now wears the outrageous green wrap. What do you guys think? Is it an improvement of the stock black? Let us know in the comments. In the stark contrast to the exterior, Alfa opted for a much more Spartan approach when it comes to the interior.
As a matter of fact, don't expect a lot more than a couple of seats and a steering wheel. Now there are two schools of thought here. One is that the 4C utterly fails to compete with comparable cars in interior appointments. The other is that the 4C is a throwback to a classic without all the distractions of modern gadgetry and doodads like a glove box or padded seats.
Enough talking. I say we take it for a ride. You ready, Paul?
And as if on cue, Clutch has arrived.
Happening right now.
You expected something else?
About time you got here. Where you been?
Well, I guess manscaping is important.
We're taking this 4C for a ride. You think he's coming back?
I think he's coming back. While I've got some time here to myself, I guess I'll take an opportunity to tell you a little bit about GearHeadTour. We're a channel on YouTube, obviously, and we travel around the country. We are on a mission to take a look at some really cool cars out there, some really cool events. We travel around, we go to these places, events, conventions, car collections, wherever we can go, and try to bring those stories to you. We meet some really cool people along the way. We see some really cool stuff. We're going to show you you know, how we do these things. How can you go to these events? How can you get access to some of these cars and see these cars or even drive these cars? This Alfa Romeo, which is not here anymore, we picked it up off of a website called Turo.com. And Turo is a website that is kind of like the Airbnb of cars. You just go on there, people have their cars on there. This car happened to belong to a guy named Ramon. Clicked on the links, and next thing you know, we're driving his Alfa Romeo around the city of Louisville, Kentucky. And speaking of Alfa Romeos, I think I hear our friend approaching. It's about time. I hope you put gas in it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so first thing I noticed when I get in, took a little bit to get in, this car sits so low on the ground. So if you are bigger than me and I'm only 5'5", good luck, because it's a very small interior. You kind of have like this raised wall that you have to fold your legs in to get in. But I noticed when I started driving that this obviously has no power steering, so the wheel is so heavy. But I'm telling you, when you hit accelerate, the car, it has speed.
So the car is not the easiest thing to get into. Maybe for Amanda, who's younger, thinner, has probably performed some kind of exercise in the last 3 to 5 years, unlike me. The door sills are really wide, and you just sort of have to fall into the car. And there's really just, for me, no graceful way to make it happen. And then I've got to sort of cram my foot in here and get into the seat.
The interior is actually nicer than I expected. The seats, bucket seats, I like the red leather. They're not as comfortable as I thought they would be, but you know, this is really just for speed. So taking a cruise down to Louisville, Kentucky, if you're on the roads, watch out because it's a little scary.
Now that I'm in the car, it feels like I'm encased in a can of Vienna sausages. I'm just kind of really crammed in here. You know, I'm a bigger guy, so this car is very small. It's a tight squeeze for me. And it's going to take every bit of skill that I have to get back out of this thing. Now, luckily for me, I have our production intern, Sam, standing by to help hoist me out of this car. It's going to be like one of those medical shows where they have to cut down the wall to get the fat guy to the hospital.
Yeah, the console area of this car is actually really surprising because as nice as it looks on the outside, you get in and it's very basic. It's got these 3 dials here in the middle for your AC. It's just very old school, to be honest with you. And then it's got these like 4 dials of 1 neutral, reverse, AM. I'm gonna go ahead and say that's for Amanda Mertz. I feel like it's not necessarily a city car though. This is definitely a car you want to take on the back roads and really just pedal to the metal and just drive it for what this car is, and it's just a sports car. And if you're going on any road trips, I wouldn't recommend this car, at least not for my luggage, because this little console right here is not going to cut it. And another thing to note is that the windows, as far as visibility, you get that from the front and the side, but I don't know if you all can tell, the back windshield is basically non-existent. So if we were to parallel park this car, which you probably don't want me to, probably wouldn't go so well. I mean, you can't see anything.
The seats are kind of nice. They're not bad. There's nothing wrong with the interior. It's just very sparse. It's made more for, it's just more utilitarian.
It's got a lot of plastic to it, honestly. The interior, like I said, is pretty basic. I think this is really just built more for show on the outside. It definitely turns heads, but it's super weird because it's so low to the ground. I feel like even regular cars look like monster trucks right now. It's very different. I drive an SUV, so I'm used to just sitting a little higher. This is definitely a lot lower than I'm used to, but I was kind of concerned whenever I was driving straight on these downtown roads that we would come to a pothole or any speed bump, and because it sits so low to the ground, I thought it might rub, but it really doesn't. It drives really well. But like I said, I would definitely take this car on a back road, send it.
Now, once you're sitting in the seat, you feel like you are just about sitting on the ground. It's very low. It's practically go-kart low. You'll find that the rear visibility is basically non-existent.
Definitely a head turner. I don't know if it's the lime green, I don't know if it's a girl driving it, but it's getting a lot of attention downtown right now. Well, and if the sun's in your eyes, these visors do nothing. Not sure why they even have them. And it's still crazy to me that the engine is in the back and there's a spot where the front hood looks like it opens, but it actually doesn't. So that's super weird. And I always wondered, because the engine's so close to where the trunk space is, like, you have groceries and stuff, like, what if you have ice cream? Is it gonna melt before you get home? That's a priority for me before I'm looking to buy a car.
Now, even though I've mentioned a phone book's worth of complaints about the 4C, I'm willing to forgive some of those shortcomings once the car gets moving.
This car is definitely not made to be driven in downtown traffic. It really needs to just be like taken out to a back road where you can just send it.
Ooh, all right! Wow! Woo! All right. The lack of power steering in this car really gives you a sense of connectivity to the road. It's incredible. You don't get this in the average car. The car is nimble. It feels lightweight. The steering is immediate.
And this is why you get this kind of car, because once you hit roads like this, you can just see how smooth and just swift it takes the turns. It's a really, really fun car to drive.
The car feels lightweight because it is lightweight. The center section of this car is built of carbon fiber with a front and rear aluminum subframe. That whole thing weighs just 236 pounds. That's approximately what I weigh sitting here in this seat. Of course, that depends on how many Vienna sausages I've eaten. There is an obvious rigidity to the car. It handles in the corners, it's just absolutely flat. Now, it does suffer a little bit from a little bit of oversteer in the corners. But you know what? It's forgivable. You know, it's something you can deal with on the throttle.
Yeah, this is so much fun. I knew whenever we took it downtown, I mean, it was going to be a cool car, but it's really hard to determine that whenever you're just sitting in traffic. So we took it up into the mountains. We've got some really windy roads, and we're just ready to cut loose. But I just love, because I drove, at one point I had a Mercedes G-Wagon, and let me tell you, that thing was so rough, like a tank. So driving a little car like this and how low it sits to the ground is very different for me, but it's so much fun. It's like a toy car.
Now, you might notice that at low speeds, the dual clutch transmission is a little bit, I don't know, clunky, but when you really put the car to the test, you know, it's unnoticeable. You know, getting back to the interior for a moment, there is a telescoping steering wheel, which can add a little bit of comfort to your arms. I find it to be pretty comfortable. Instrument panel right where you need it, has pretty much everything you need to know. I might like to configure it differently when I was in race mode. It actually shows me an accelerometer. I'd rather maybe be able to see the oil temperature or something else when I was in that mode, but that might be something that's able to change in the settings. I don't love the two-spoke steering wheel. even though it does have this really nice Alfa Romeo emblem right in the center. And if we can, let's just talk about that emblem for a moment. I don't know if you've ever looked at the Alfa Romeo logo, but it's quite interesting. On the left-hand side is a red cross, which is symbolic of the city of Milan, which is the hometown of the Alfa Romeo. On the right-hand side, on the other hand, is what's called a bichone, or a grass snake. And the grass snake is swallowing a small child. And that's not weird.
I still can't get over how low it sits to the ground. I mean, honestly, I'm driving by mailboxes and I'm not even taller than those. But there's really no issue on like bottoming out around the corners. It drives so well. The acceleration on this thing is something to be noted because it's not one of the fastest cars in the world, but dang, its pickup is so quick.
I looked in the owner's manual for the significance of a big snake eating a small child, and I couldn't find it in the manual. Although there were somewhere around 256 mentions of the word child or children within the manual. Now, to be fair, it only mentioned the word toddler one time, which is what I feel like driving in this car. Back to the interior, I know a lot of people will complain about this cup holder. You know, they say it's not really adequate for holding anything, you know, a bottle of water or anything. And I think that's because people have mistaken this indentation for some time as being a cup holder, when it's actually a space for holding your Vienna sausages.
And with the speed that it has, you definitely don't want to run into any cops around here. With the color lime green, you definitely stand out. So you just gotta watch for the cops.
You just love the little fart that this car gives out every time it shifts. I ordered us some beers.
Hey,
Yeah.
yay.
So, what's your overall impression of the 4C?
Yeah, I really loved it. I think it's a fun car to drive, and kind of once you get in there and you feel how fast it is, you kind of forget about those like minor complaints of the interior.
Yeah. Clutch is right. It is a super fun ride.
It really is.
All right.
Yeah.
It's like you said, Amanda, the interior is like really minimalist, but the outside of the car looks like something that would cost $200,000, and it's really totally exotic. So, to the 4C.
Yes. Cheers. Yes.
I agree. It does have some odd little quirks. I found it incredibly weird that there's an entire body panel in the front that looks like a hood with all the panel gaps all the way around, and yet it doesn't open.
Yeah. It's even more odd that there actually is something under there. It's like the windshield washer reservoir is under the hood, yet the hood doesn't open. And then you have to, unscrew the 4-screw?
Right, unscrew the weird little panel.
Yeah, lift the cover, which is beneath the windshield, and then use some little weird tube thing to get it out.
Yeah, it's a little bit complex. It seems
Yeah.
like they could have just put a hinge on there.
For sure.
Yeah. What about the trunk? I mean, there's a safety release in there. Who's going to climb inside that trunk? That trunk, I couldn't fit my wallet in
A
that
little
trunk.
leprechaun or
Yeah,
something.
right. Yeah, maybe it's one of those kids they keep talking about in the owner's manual.
Yeah.
See.
Yeah.
All right, who's driving the 4C to Cars and Coffee tomorrow?
Me.
Haha.
Rock, paper, scissors?
Yeah, best out of three. Yeah.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
That's it.
Clutch is driving. What'd you guys think of the 4C? Let us know in the comments below. And while you're down there, go ahead and hit subscribe to our channel and click the bell button to make sure that you get some notifications when we have new content.